they are welcome, that they are welcome here.
Mhm.
And so this is the agenda for today. We already did our welcoming, our centering, our introduction. Linda and I will get into the theory as well as how we do the Imago dialogue. And there's a video of a brief video about appreciations, one of the dialogues that we do, and then we'll get into question and answers.
Mhm. So the main premise about the Imago therapy is that we are born in relationships, we're wounded in relationships, and we heal in relationships. I have a saying, it takes one to heal one, and that's relationships. So oftentimes I'll have individuals who are coming to me, often having anxiety or depression because of a relationship. So it's always, they may come to me for years individually, but whenever I can get them to kind of bring their partner in, the change, the growth, the healing that's able to take place is amazing. So we can see that we can often get much further along in that healing and growth realm, and in relationships as opposed to individual therapy.
Yeah, if I might, Linda, I shared with a couple the other night, and he was really intent and saying that his wife needed individual therapy, and I had to remind him that we are born in relationship, wounded in relationship, and we definitely can be healed inside the relationship. Not that we want our partners to heal us, but that we can do the work that we get to understand each other and get to a deeper understanding of our experiences. And so that helped. He was like, oh, a light went off for him. So yeah, this is a really good saying.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. So I want you to kind of give us some feedback here. What behaviors do you see when couples walk into your office? And I guess for Zaria, since you've been working with couples, and Tamika may not have a lot of experience, can you share or type in the chat um, some of the things that you see when couples come into the office?
Yeah, I see a lot of blaming and just a lot of defensiveness comes up. Um, Wanting to fix the other person, sometimes not as much accountability,
Mhm.
um, from both sides or one person being more accountable than the other.
Mhm.
Okay.
If I might share, I see a lot of reactivity, people not using that frontal lobe part and really working from that reptilian brain, like as to me, Azara said, like that blame and shaming comes into the office. And so there's a lot of un some unconscious things happening without them really knowing it. Yeah. And I like this picture because they are sitting on the opposite ends of wherever you want them to be. When they first come in, they sit on the opposite ends of the couch.
Yes.
Then we do Imago.
Yes. And every time I often, when I get couples, I secretly want to take pictures of them. It was like if
Mhm.
I could take a snapshot of them now and then at the end of Imago, it's often like night and day, mostly.
Yes, yes,
Mostly.
mostly, exactly.
Yes. And then I want us to look at some of the things that we said, the blaming, defensiveness, lack of accountability, reactivity, shaming. And then sometimes it's lack of hope. Sometimes couples come to us and they're at their wits' end. There's a lot of uncertainty about whether their relationship is going to make it. Did they choose the wrong person? There's a lot of unknowns kind of come up. Um, and when we look at those, have you ever thought or made the connection? Do you ever feel any of those things when you're dealing with a couple? Azari, I think we're picking on you again.
Yeah, yeah. I start to feel a little incompetent of what I'm doing, especially if it feels like we've been circling some of the same topics over and over. And when they start to feel frustrated about progress, I'm also in the same boat. So, yeah.
Hmm. Yes. So this is where the parallel process actually comes into process too. You can go to the next slide, Latasha. So one of the main goals that we have in the Imago therapy is safety and connection. Because of all of those things that we mentioned, the blaming, defensiveness, lack of accountability, reactivity in them and in us, shaming, blaming, feeling incompetent, maybe they even feeling incompetent to even meet their partner's needs, frustrated, they're frustrated, I get frustrated, you know. All of these feelings come up. So having a safe and connected place is really one of the key goals that as an imago therapist that we focus on. That helps us to feel grounded, and it also creates that a space for the couple to kind of feel grounded as well.
So there's the theory of Imago. We're going to go over a couple of theories that we have centered around Imago. And so we say that in Imago, the intimate relationship, we are healing. We want to heal and grow in this work that we do. The healing part is getting needs met. How do we get our needs met? As children, we have unmet needs from our parents. And many times, we like to say we take it into our adult relationship. And we look to our partners and we look to those people to help us get our needs met. And the growth, the stretching of those parts of us, the lost parts that we have in us that were kind of stifled as children, how those lost parts are there and how we reclaim them to get to our original wholeness. Because we like to say that children are born in their full aliveness. And then we have unmet needs and lost parts. And so, how do we get the needs met? By healing. And how do we reclaim our lost parts and go back into that original wholeness and full aliveness? Linda, would you like to add to this?
No, that's perfect. Well said.
Mhm.
So there is a something that we notice that tends to happen, and it never fails. The couples that come to me, oftentimes their complaint is they're usually one way, which we use the tiger and the turtle. So normally one person is the one who, when there's a conflict, the way they adapt to conflict is they want to talk about it right now. A discussion must be had. And the other person often is the one who wants to avoid, wants to downplay conflict, kind of like that turtle. They kind of go into their shell, and they want to only come out when things are calm again. So oftentimes that usually is the disconnect between the couple because they have different styles of communicating and they feel like, there's a lot of miscommunication happening. So the one beautiful thing about Imago is that we help them to make that connection by um, explaining, doing a lot of psychoeducation about our different defense uh, mechanisms and the way we have adapted to conflict based on past relationships that we've seen.
Yeah. And I like to say that with our defense adaptations scare our partners. A person that wants to talk, they're very much afraid when a person goes in their shell and needs to think about it and come back out and talk about it. And while they both want the same thing, is to talk about it, but they just need the different amount of time. So I like to say we help the tiger to slow down a little bit. We help the turtle to speed up a little bit, and somewhere in between we can find that connection that the couple needs in order to communicate
It's true.
effectively.
It's
Okay,
true.
so this is just a funny slide, and just take a moment. Our marriage is in trouble. I better keep my mouth shut. Sounds like the turtle, right?
Mm,
Our marriage is in trouble. We need to talk about it.
right now. They don't want
That's
to
what it
wait.
is. We don't want to wait. This is every couple has a turtle, a tiger, or what we like to say a maximizer or minimizer.
Mhm. Beautiful. There's another saying that we have a lot of sayings in Imago. Another thing we say is conflict is change waiting to happen. So we like to help them to understand that conflict isn't something that needs to be feared or run from, but we like to get them excited about conflict. When I have someone who comes into the office and they are telling me how much they're in trouble, and they're pointing out all the issues that they're having. And I'm like, great, because, I then introduce this concept to them. Whenever there's conflict in a relationship, that's when change is trying to happen. And here we can see this illustration of the butterfly, which is beautiful. We go from that nasty looking, in that cocoon, first that caterpillar stage, and then it goes in this cocoon phase. But then through all of those changes, through a lot of friction, a lot of growing pains, eventually there's this beautiful butterfly that emerges. And that's our hope for each couple.
Another theory is crossing the bridge. Crossing the bridge is a part of what we think of of couples going into each other's world, right? So we might have a couple and we ask the couple, we'll talk about that. There's a sender and a receiver. We ask that the receiver enters into the sender's world. So they cross the bridge into their world. And what I like to say in sessions is that your partner does not think like you. They do not respond the way you respond. They do not adapt the way you adapt to things. And so their world is very different. But what I want you to do is to get into their world and just listen to understand, be curious as they're talking, and just learn about your partner in their world. I often say when you go into someone's world, like it's like entering into their home. So when you enter in somebody's home and it's the first time you go to their home, you don't go in the refrigerator, you ask permission. So it's slowly being curious about things. And as you get to know them, as you learn, then you can do more and more things in their world. And so in Imago, it's more and more things that you understand about the person, about how your partner responds, how your partner might think about a particular situation. So crossing the bridge into their world, that you leave all of your stuff behind in that moment and just focus on what they need. Because ultimately, the goal for all of us is to be heard, is to be understood, is to be empathized with, and to be validated. So entering into crossing that bridge into the other person's world.
So the Imago dialogue, and the way I explain this is the vehicle. This is the vehicle that we use. Oftentimes, people get, when they think of Imago, they think of this dialogue, and they think that Imago is basically the dialogue, even though it's much more. But this is the vehicle. I can't go from here to DC without getting in some type of vehicle, right? So this vehicle is made up of some components. The first one is the invitation. The invitation because we all live busy lives and often have various roles. So therefore, before I want to start a conversation with someone, I need to send an invitation first to see if the person is available. The next part is mirroring and summaring. Because of our, again, busy lives, we're often multitasking, whether if you're a mother, you're fulfilling a lot of roles. In our careers, we often have various tasks. So one thing that we like to do is mirroring helps you to really focus on what is being said, right? So we use some stems just to, in the process of developing this skill, we use stems just to, it's like in meditation, to keep bringing our mind back to what we're doing. So as a person is, as we have the sender and receiver, like Latasha said. So the receiver is the one who is then mirroring what they'll be hearing, and kind of mirroring, giving it back to the person just as they received it. And we use these stems as you see here. You said, did I get you? Is there more? And then you kind of do a summary once the person has conveyed their full idea.
The next part is the validating. This part is really important because we want to make sure that our partners know that we heard them and we get what they said. And so we use these stems. I hear what you're saying and it matters to me. I can see your perspective and it makes sense to me. Oh, that makes sense to me. And one thing that makes sense to me is, and those things are really important because you want to make sure that your partner, you're getting something. Sometimes I might add, and one thing that makes sense to me. So really making sure that your partner knows there's something that you get. You're being intentional about getting what they're saying. You're right there with them.
Then another part is empathy. And empathy is once you've mirrored what you've heard, you've validated their point of view, not necessarily agreed with their point of view, but then you want to, this is crossing that bridge. Taking a moment and imagining if you were in their shoes, how might you feel? So then we use these stems. I imagine you might be feeling. And then we check in. We don't want to tell them how they're feeling. We want to check in and say, is that how you're feeling? So this actually really make room for the other person's thought, and their experience before we respond.
Yes. And if I might circle back to validation, I'd like to say that validation does not mean agreement.
Mhm.
It simply means that I heard you. And so that's really important. Sorry about that.
Keep.
And so the next part we would like to share with you is an appreciation dialogue. This is one of the dialogues that we do in the beginning after we do our centering. We might ask a question about what is one word that describes the relationship right now. And then we go into appreciation dialogue every single time because our intent is to decrease pain and increase pleasure. And with that, appreciation is a way of bringing out the good parts, the pleasure, the goodness in the relationship. Because sometimes in relationships, people don't acknowledge the things that which they appreciate. So this appreciation dialogue happens in every session. And each one of these things, these are the stems that we use. What my partner or loved one did in the last week that I appreciate is, I appreciate this because when they did that, it helped me to feel. In my childhood, I did not feel this way. And they share a story and then they thank the person for listening. And so that is part of what we do in the beginning of our sessions.
Mhm.
And if we can pause, I can show you a short video clip of an appreciation, if that's okay. So are there any questions so far?
Do you have them go through all of those questions at the start of the session? Like that appreciation dialogue, or do they just pick one part of it?
you're going to adapt it, right?
Uh-huh.
Sometimes I add different things. So, what I've done over the last week to stretch myself to improve this relationship, just really things that you want them to appreciate. Like I want you to appreciate. Like I'm really trying, so I've stretched myself this week to do this, and so you don't have to use the entire thing, but you will adapt it based on individual couples. And do know that the information in which we're sharing, that we have so many different kinds of dialogues. This is not the only one. And you will adapt them as you become more inept with the modality that you're going to be using, which is Imago. So
Can I add one before we move on to that? Because that was a good question. When anyone is learning the dialogues, these stems, people have a lot of feelings about the stems. And I tell people to look at the stems and some of the structure like training wheels. The dialogue imago in itself is the only theory that it wasn't just something I learned, it was something that happened to me. All right. So imago is a little different when you think about other theories, and imago is not just a theory that you're going to learn. It is actually going to be something that happens to you. The stems and the dialogues are like training wheels. As your brain is um, enlarging or developing greater capacity to be able to have more room than just your thoughts, to actually be able to embrace the thoughts of your partner, it's like training wheels. But as some of this starts to become a part of you, it's just like training wheels. After you get the sense of how to ride the bike, you take the training wheels off. So there are some parts that you will hold on to, and then there are other things that will drop off, but you will start to adapt. You won't have to be as cold or rigid, right? As you move along. Does that make sense?
No, that
It
makes
does.
sense. Thank you.
Yes.
and
And I
even if
think, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Tamika?
go ahead, Tamika.
I'm sorry because I didn't want to change this. I guess it wouldn't change the subject, but I wanted to know, like, because I'm sure that in the beginning, this is, it's going to be the couples are going to need motivation for comfortability. Because I'm sure that, if this is not something they're used to doing. So, how do you sort of support that process? Do you kind of tell them that in the beginning that, hey, this may not feel comfortable? And I love what you said, like, this is like training wheels. The more you get used to it, the more you become comfortable with it, and you eventually take those training wheels off and you're riding the bike in a different way. So is that something that you share with them? Okay.
Yes, I always share with my couples like this is not the way we normally communicate. So it's gonna feel funny at first, but as you get to know it, it becomes a part of the way you live. Like we go around the house and we might like I was talking to my partner the other morning, he was like, "May I mirror you?" Right? And it becomes part of what we do because it really helps to settle the nervous system, right? There's not, we know in certain communities, and I'm not going to say, we kind of talk over each other sometimes, right? That's the way we've learned to talk, and the loudest one is the one who wins, right? But it's not about the win for us, it's about us hearing each other. And so we learn to mirror each other. My children have even called me in the middle of the night and they're like, Mom, I'm not good with my boyfriend or my girlfriend. Can we dialogue? And I get up out of bed and I dialogue with them.
Mhm. And I must add, the turtles, normally when we have relationships, after you understand those concepts, you're going to easily be able to tell who's the tiger, who's the turtle. The turtles love this because turtles often they sometimes refrain from communicating because they don't know what to say. They don't want to stir things in the wrong direction. So the turtles love this kind of framework because it gives them something to hold on to, and helps them to feel safe enough to start talking more. And that's what we want the turtle to do. We want the turtle to start to come out of the shell And that's what the tiger wants the turtle to be more present.
And
So
I think it helps the tiger as well because the tiger feels like, oh, I have the turtle's attention. They are not going anywhere, and they're going to hear what I have to say. So it helps, and I know, Linda, it really benefits both ways of adapting to things that happen in our lives.
it does.
I love that because, and I love the fact that you all labeled it so that people can kind of see what their communication style is. Because sometimes you don't recognize it; it's automatic, and so it feels so natural. And so to understand that people do have different ways of processing and different ways of communicating, and being able to respect those, those spaces and respect one another's style is, I love that. That's amazing.
Beautiful.
And it's always amazing when you use the word amazing, but it's really amazing when you see the smiles on their face, like, oh my goodness, this person got me. Finally, after 15 years, I said it 100 different ways. I yelled it, I cursed, I did all of these things. But we just mirrored, they got me. Oh my goodness, they got me. And their faces just glow. Like it's like a light bulb goes off. Yep. So is there more? That's another question we ask in Imago. Is there more?
Not for me. That was the you all answer all of my questions.
Thank you. And so we will move on to sharing a video. And so if we can pause the recording, that would be awesome.
Okay.
Sitting, the first thing I want you to see about this video is that the couple is sitting face to face, heart to heart, eye to eye, knee to knee, so that they are talking to each other and the therapist is on the side giving the sentence stems. So that's a really different way of doing therapy, as we usually have people on the couch that come in and sit on opposite ends. So we have two chairs and there's a therapist chair in the middle, and we're talking very different. The other thing that I want you to notice about this video is that the mirroring happened. Even though he was talking really low, we could hear based on the mirroring. And we knew what she was at. And one part that he said, she said, "Did I get you?" And he said, "What I really want you to get is." So he helped her to get something that she might have been missing in the mirroring. So it wasn't about whether she got it right or wrong. It was like, you got this piece, but I want to help you to understand like this piece is equally as important, and I want you to get that. And so the conversations are very different in Imago, and you see how they can create safety because everyone is being heard. Everyone is being validated. Everyone is being empathized with. And I just have to say, the face to face and heart to heart is a very different way of thinking about it. So I see the question in the chat is sessions usually happen between 60 to 2 hours. It just depends on the therapist and it depends on the couple. Um, I have couples that come for an hour and I have couples that come for an hour and a half. The important part is that each person gets to do the sending and the receiving, right? That's the important part. Some people just do one way, but for me, it's really important that each person gets it. So we go into like a frustration that we want to share. And you'll as you go along with the training, you'll learn about different dialogues different training wheels that you might put on, right? And so the frustration, we want each person to get to talk about the same topic. And so both the sending and receiving is going to be important to happen within a session. So some therapists do it for an hour and a half. Some therapists do it for an hour. It just depends.
And of course, the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. And that's where our workshops are good companions to therapy. So oftentimes, if I have a couple, I like for a couple to go to a workshop first because a workshop is a 3 to 2 day experience where they're going to go and they're going to learn all about the structure and the dialogues and the stems, everything, and a lot of psychoeducation about relationships. So then as I continue to work with the couple, after I send my couple to a workshop, then when they come back for me, to me, I possibly could only do 45 minutes to an hour because there's a lot of psychoeducation. There's a lot, the learning curve is lower then. Now they know how to do the structure. Now we're just talking about the meat in those sessions. So then I could easily do a 60-minute session and actually have both people go back and forth over a topic. I typically will do a 90-minute session though, just to give myself time because I like, you know, even in my individual sessions, I like to kind of center the couple. You know, we take our time and we go into it, and then to wrap it up as well. But that's where our workshops are a great companion, you know, for our individual sessions.
Mm-hmm.
Did that make sense, Azaria? Did that add?
Yeah, and do you guys see the couples weekly, bi-weekly? Does it depend on their schedule or do you start out a certain way?
So it really depends on their schedule and my schedule, because I am full. So sometimes it is about my, you know, both of our schedules. So that's why we really push the workshops because of if we can get a couple to a workshop, you know, like I said, that 3 day or 2 day event, and we have workshops virtually and in person, they can do a lot of the heavy lifting there, but otherwise, we do the best we can with what we have with our schedules.
Yes.
Thank
And
you.
Okay.
yeah.
Mhm.
And so why do we do this dialogue that we call the overall dialogue is called the intentional dialogue? And we do it because it promotes it creates safety for the couple, promotes differentiation so that the tiger and the turtle can be able to talk and they are able to respond in the way in which they need to respond. And oftentimes I'll say to the tiger as the turtle is thinking about their words and taking their time, I'm like, it's not that they don't have the words. It's like, I want to make sure that I'm saying this in a way in which you can receive it. And so that's really a distinction that I bring up with my couples. Teaches skills. It teaches those psychoeducational skills that Linda was talking about earlier, making sure that they know the full dialogue, making sure that they are eye to eye, um, face to face, making sure all of those things, making sure that they understand the difference between when they're responding with reactivity versus when they're responding with in a way in which they want to hear and are available to hear. And it is culturally relevant. What our colleague has done, many of our colleagues have done research around the cultural relevance of Imago in different communities and finding out that it is very beneficial to many communities. And in fact, I use it in a church setting with a volunteer group. I also use it in a school setting with in a school that was really a class that was really out of control. And I was like, well, why don't we try the Imago dialogue with the kids during their social emotional learning? The other part is really male sensitive because a lot of times males, they're like, what I don't want to be generalized or be stereotypical, but we find out that many of the men are minimizers. And so that shell thing that happens, and that in this setting, they're able to be open, be clear, and feel safe enough to say what they need to say. And we did that. So, what are some takeaways? Um, some takeaways is that Linda can tell you what's coming up for us and what is the process of getting certified as an Imago therapist.
Mhm. I'll let you all. Is there anything that takeaways from what you've seen so far that's different in the Imago process versus some of the other theories?
I like the face-to-face part and the way that it forces everything to slow down. I think about like some of the higher conflict couples, they don't have a choice but to slow down and to hear each other versus preparing to respond.
Mhm.
I agree. That's the same for me. That was the takeaway for me. Just and also like she said, how you set the couples face to face and heart to heart, and the therapist is like on the sideline, so that because a lot of times, people sort of become dependent on the therapist, but that sort of forces them to sort of stay focused on each other.
Yes. Yes.
Beautiful.
You got it. Got
Yeah,
it.
beautiful.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's how I have my office arranged, and I often tell them as I have the couples face to face, I tell them to observe that space and I ask them, what's in that space between you two? And of course they laugh and say a bunch of things, but usually the answer is nothing. And I said, and that's the way we like to keep it.
Mhm.
I'm on the side and I represent everybody else in your life. Children, dogs, cats, family members, everybody. And that space between you two, try to keep it clear. Don't invite anyone in that space that you wouldn't invite into your bed,
Mm.
right? So that they have a real good visual of that. Um, based uh moving to the next thing, our upcoming training. So we do have a online so let me preface it with this. My focus, I am in the Hampton Roads area and I am a new associate, faculty associate of Imago. And my whole focus is to bring more BIPOC members into the community, but also to build this Hampton Road and South. Actually, Zari, I have a colleague of mine who is actually going through the training now, who's in Charlotte. And that's one of her focuses is actually to build community in that area as well. Because we have a lot of Imago colleagues throughout the United States, but mainly north. But when we start to go south, that's when we hit some, we call them Imago deserts. So we have an upcoming training. Uh, the one that we have, the most recent one will be in May the 1st through the 4th. So the trainings are in 3 modulars. So the first modular will be, and it's normally 4 days. It's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then that's the first modular. Then the next modular, and all these dates are on my website as well, August the 7th through the 10th. And then the third one is November the 6th to the 9th. You can become Imago trained by just going through the modulars. If you want to be then certified, all that will be required is some additional time, we'd say 6 sessions of supervision and a tape that we'll review and approve. But you will everything that you need for that last certification process. You will be given all of that in those modulars. And because I am my mission is to bring in more BIPOC communities into the Imago community and also the Hampton Roads area, I am offering a training buddy deal. So it's like a 2-for-1. Each modular generally runs about $1,000 per modular, but if you train with a buddy, you can split that, and 2 people can train for the price of one.
Oh,
Any questions about that? And also, I am definitely working with people, so even at that, I felt like that would be a great opportunity. But if there are even further financial restraints for whatever reason, if the person is still studying, there's a student, or they have some other unforeseen financial issue, I'm willing to work with people, based on their situations. You're going to say something, Latasha?
no, I was not.
I have a question.
Yes.
So if you do the modulars first,
Mhm.
Is there a time limit for the certification part? Like, say if you're not seeing couples right now, because I'm sure you have to, in order to do the last part for the certification, you would have to, have some clients. So if you're like, say if your job, your full-time job doesn't allow that,
Mhm.
um, is there a time limit? Does that make sense?
No, no time limit at all. And actually, we will work with you. Well, I often have people who come in who don't see couples. I'm working with a person in my last class. She works with a military group, and so she doesn't see couples in that capacity. We're working with her. We have some ideas and some things that you can do to get around that.
Mhm,
Okay, that's good to know.
Mm.
Thank you.
mhm.
We're going to work with you. We're going to be with you from the beginning. My whole objective, if you want to be certified, you will be able to get certified.
And also, both Linda and I offer the Getting the Love You Want workshop. The
Mhm.
Getting the Love You Want workshop is one of the criteria in order to get fully certified, is that you and your partner or you and a friend have to attend it together in order to have the experience of what it feels like to go through that as part of it.
Mhm.
And it's an experience you don't forget.
Yes. And if you're not partner, we have a sister program called Keeping the Love You Find. And it's for individuals. Sometimes they say singles, but it's really for individuals. Sometimes individual they're in a relationship, but their partner does not want to attend the workshop. They can attend the Keeping the Love You Find, which is for individuals. So you can also attend that as well.
Another question, the two for one, like the training of two people for one person. Do you all have like, say if you don't know anyone who's interested, do you all have someone that someone could like partner with? Maybe.
That could possibly come out of it. The whole point of having the two for one is we want you to share it with your friends. If you
Okay.
know other therapists, share it with them. But yes, of course, if I know of someone, who doesn't have a partner, if I know two people, I have no problem sharing that because I really I want to get more BIPOC people involved in this process.
So, are there more questions?
Mhm.
If there are
No,
not, go ahead.
I was
Go
gonna say no, I don't have any, but thank you guys, especially for that, like the buddy opportunity. Just need to find a buddy. So
Yes. So let me ask you two. Were either of you thinking about the upcoming training on? So the online training in May that will happen online, of course, because people are coming from everywhere. And that were either of you thinking about that opportunity? The May the 1st through the 4th.
I'm not sure. I was still thinking, I for me, I was really thinking about November because that would be like a birthday gift to myself. I don't know if, but if if I found a partner and then maybe I could think about on May.
Okay. Azaria, what were you?
yeah, I was thinking about the May. I'm just trying to um, all the financial pieces of it. All these certifications cost so much, so just needing to figure out to make all of that work.
I got you. Yeah, and I like I said, I work with people. You two are here. Maybe you could exchange emails information, that way you two could sign up. But also I offer a payment plan, if a person says, okay, I found a partner still, it's $500, if you want to split that up, I'm working with people. When I got into Imago, it was a stretch that there was no BIPOC opportunity. And actually, the reason that I'm pushing the BIPOC and this Hampton Roads area so hard is because I had to travel. I'm in the Hampton Road area, the nearest person I could find was in DC, and I had to make numerous trips over probably a 5-year period back and forth to DC in order to get the training, and there was no discounts. And I not only became Imago certified because once I started the process, I drank the Kool-Aid. I became sold out, and then I went further and also became a workshop presenter. And so that was another leg. And so I understand the financial, investment, and it is an investment, but I'm willing to work with people because people will work, they work with me.
Mhm.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem.
Same.
All right. Well, that's all I have. Any last words, Latasha?
And so you all will be getting emails from us to let you know how to sign up, what to do, and just so you know, we'll be sending it out, and you are welcome to share them with your friends, whomever is interested in doing this work, because this is an amazing work, and we want to make sure that we have BIPOC practitioners included in the work that is being done.
Yes. Okay, ladies, I appreciate you sharing, part of your Sunday evening. I know your downtime with us, but we really appreciate the opportunity to share more information about Imago.
Thank you.
Okay.
All
All right.
right. We're going to stop recording.